and welcome to Hedgehog Hollow and welcome to part 2 of our alcohol marker skill builder. Today I'm going to talk to you all about what ink pads to use with your alcohol markers. Last time we looked at what papers to use and you saw some different variations depending on what effect you want, what your skill level is and what you feel most comfortable using. Now today I have 10 different pads sitting here. I'm going to take you through them all. Now in a general rule with alcohol markers, or any ink in general, is you want to use opposites. So if you're working with watercolors or water-based markers, you want to use an alcohol or solvent-based ink. You can also use embossed inks, and some pigment inks will work as long as you heat set them really well, or put some clear embossing powder over the top. If you're working with alcohol markers, you want to use a water-based dye or a dye-based ink. Now there are a couple of companies who create some very specific ones for alcohol markers. I'm going to look at those. And there's also some companies that make hybrid inks and they work really well too. So let's have a look at some of the inks I've got here and I can take you through the pros and cons of all of them. So let's get started. So these are the 10 pads we're going to be looking at today. So I've got everything from Momento, 2 different lawn form ones, VersaFine, the Adirondacks, Archival, Staz, the Umbrella Crafts and Scrapbook.com, and my favourite things hybrid. Plus we're going to take a look at heat embossing as well. We're going to use the VersaMark pad for that. So I'm going to slide some of these out of the way and we're going to start with 2 that I really don't recommend using and I'm going to show you why. So I've got my mini MISTI here because it's perfect for these little slips of cardstock that I've cut. And I'm going to be using the Lawn Fawn Octopi My Heart Octopus. I think you'll be perfect for our little trial. So I'm going to do Archival Black first of all. So this is Ranger Archival ink. It's a really nice ink for porous surfaces, but I don't recommend using it with your alcohol markers because it does have an alcohol base to it, so it's going to react with your markers. I'm going to clean this off with my stamp chamois. I'll link up the stamp chamois in the right hand corner if you want to know how I clean my stamps. That will be on your screen as well. So here's the Staz. Again, Staz is an alcohol base, so you're going to see, we'll do that one again, let's turn that over. You're going to see why I don't recommend this one. Hopefully we've got a better image. I'm going to stamp this one out for a second time. I wonder if my Staz pad's getting a little bit dried up. Had it for quite some time. I'm going to have one more go with it. And I'm going to be quite forceful on his tentacle there. So we'll just go with that one. I'm going to give my chamois a wipe off. And I'll add a new Staz pad to my shopping list. So let me write this on here at the bottom what we've got. So this is Staz on black. So before you use any ink with Copics, I'm going to recommend either leaving it for a few minutes to set or heat setting it. So I'm going to use my Wagner heat tool here just for a couple of seconds. Now, the reason I always advise you to heat set it when working with alcohol markers, first of all, no ink dries instantly. I mean, it will dry fairly quickly, but it's not instant, and so I just find that that little bit of extra time gives me some wiggle room. Secondly, if I do happen to pick up one of the wrong pads, say it's this Archival one or the Staz, if you heat set it and you're not using a huge amount of colour, you may find you get away with it. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So, I'm going to take and I'm going to colour over the lines. This is a YR07, so it's a nice orange colour there. And I'm going to colour over the lines. And I'm going to do the same on this one. And I'm going to lift them up and show you what I mean. So because I've heat set this, I'm going to lift this all the way up. You can see here this little black line. Once the camera focuses in. So this black line here is not as crisp as it is on the other side. So the left side is coloured in, so it's not that crisp. The right side is not coloured in and is nice and crisp. So you can see that one on there. I'm also going to show you the Archival Black. Now this one has not done well at all. So have a look on the left side, how smeary that line has gone, how smeary his eye is in particular, and then have a look at the right side where it's nice and crisp and I haven't put that marker. Now I would also do some comparison photos at the end of the video so that you can see these next to one of the other one of my more preferred ink pads so that you can see the difference. Now the next one I'm going to show you is Momento Tuxedo Black. Lots of people like this. It's a dye-based ink, and so it will do well with alcohol markers. Again, just because I'm on a video and I'm not going to leave them out to sit, I am going to just use a little bit of my heat tool to heat it up and make sure it's nice and dry. Just giving this a good wipe off. And I'm going to grab this again. So this time I'm going to take the same pen and I'm going to colour it, and I'm going to do it over a couple of times to build up that layer, and then when I lift it up, again you're going to see that same thing. So the left is nice and crisp, as is the right. So whether I put the pen there or not, you've got a lovely crisp outline, and it's not reacting to that alcohol marker. Because it's a water-based pad, it's not going to react with the alcohol in the ink. Now the same is going to happen with the umbrella crafts. I really like these ink pads. Scrapbook.com sent me a couple of them to try, and I've been really impressed with how they come out. So again, I'm going to stamp him out, and we'll dry him off. And we'll clean off our stamp, ready for the next one. So again, I'm going to colour this all over, or just over the edge of the outline rather. So I'm going to lift that up, and you can see it's still quite crisp. It's not maybe as crisp as the Momento, but it's still a great impression. If it's something you have in your arsenal, then I would recommend using it with alcohol markers. Does need a good heat dry, or leave it out for at least half an hour before you get started with alcohol markers. Alcohol markers are very strong, and you want to use a really strong ink with them, but it is a really nice ink to work with in general. And whilst you don't see it so much on the orange, if you were using a really light pink or something, particularly with your Archival or the Staz on, you're going to have issues with those light pens. They're going to pick up some of that black ink, and it's going to be on your nib, which you do not want. That's not going to happen with the umbrella crafts, but as I say, it does need a little bit more heat drying than most. Now the next two I want to talk to you about are Lawn Fawn inks. So Lawn Fawn have two inks. They have a black dye premium ink pad, which is black licorice as normal. They also do this premium ink pad called Jet Black, and Jet Black is designed to work with alcohol markers. It's got a special formulation in it. If we read the back, it says made with care in the USA for use with alcohol-based markers, acid-free, archival and fade resistant, waterproof, fast drying and permanent. So I'm going to show you both of them, but I particularly like this Jet Black. Let's try the black licorice first of all. And we'll do them side by side again, and I will take lots of pictures to include at the end of the video, and they'll be on the blog, which will be linked below the video, so that you can look at them later, pin them, refer to them. Feel free to use them as you need to for your own crafting needs. Now let me ink up. This is going to be with the Jet Black, and again I'm just going to do a quick heat set to make sure it's nice and dry. I'm going to go back in with that one again. I think my chamois is a little bit wet and it's leaving some residue on my stamp. I will fix that later. So it's still a nice crisp line. I'm going to grab this again. I'm going to clean off my stamp so it just has a little bit of time to dry as well whilst we're doing this. So the Lawn Fawn alcohol specific Jet Black, I mean, you can really load this up. I'm going to go crazy on this one. You're not going to notice any bleeding, any movement. The same's going to happen with the general black licorice, but if like me you do a lot of alcohol ink work, you're going to find that something like the Lawn Fawn is really going to be a great thing to have in your drawer. So you can see there next to each other are the two different ones, and nothing has budged at all. You've got a nice crisp line, you've got nice detailing, and particularly on this one you've got absolutely no movement, and it doesn't matter how many times you layer up. And particularly some alcohol markers are more aggressive than others. I've chosen Copics for this demonstration, but in the next video we're going to look at different types of alcohol markers, and some are a little bit harsher than others on your ink. Now, my favourite type of ink is the My Favourite Things Hybrid Black, and you'll see me use that all the time on various things. I love this because on the same image I can use Copics or alcohol-based markers, I can use watercolours, I can use everything, and it's always going to stay steadfast. So it's great if you want one ink in your drawer. I love the My Favourite Things Hybrid. Of course, I will link it below so you can get the exact one that I've got. But if you just changed your mind halfway through and you wanted to add some zig, or if you didn't want to have the guesswork of what pad do I use at what time, then I would go with this. So again, I'm just going to heat dry it for speed. And I'm going to grab this. And I'm going to colour in. And again, nothing is going to go anywhere. So you can see there, that's it, it picks it up there. Nothing is going to move, nothing is going to spread around. Again, I would recommend the heat drying. Just speeds it up, or just leave it out for a little bit of time. The heat would also help set some of the inks as well a little bit more. Just to show you what I mean, I'm going to grab this little piece of scrap paper that I've got here, and I'm going to just put some of this hybrid back on again. I'm going to add some heat to it. This was just a practice piece I had for a video I was doing earlier in preparation for this one. So if I spray this with water, and I'm going to lift it up for you, it's not going anywhere. So it doesn't matter what you use, whether you mix different types of medium on the same thing, or whether you just don't want to have the guesswork of what ink to use, then go with the hybrid. And my recommendation with hybrid is that you can use it on anything. You can get it in every single colour. I think I pretty much have all the colours as well. But it's a really great versatile ink. But if you are using different ink pads, then I suggest you do go with the rules of, if you use water-based ink, you use alcohol-based colouring mediums. If you use alcohol-based ink, then you use water-based colouring mediums. Now, lots of you love the VersaFine Onyx Black. Now, I had to buy it because so many of you recommended it to me. I do find it's quite a pricey ink. And I have to say I find it still a little bit thick and gloopy. However, the best way that I found using it with Copics is to stamp out like this and either heat set it and heat set it for a little bit of time, or I'm going to, for this demonstration, I'm going to add some clear embossing powder over the top. Because it's pigment based, it will allow me to heat emboss. You can't let it stay there for too long, but you have a minute or so to add that powder on. I'm also just going to clear this off of my MISTI. So with the VersaFine, as I say, as long as you heat set it, you don't need to add that clear embossing powder. But I do like it, and also it gives it a lovely 3D texture. Let me show you that before I colour it in. So you can see, and you can really feel on there that nice 3D enamel. So it makes it look like enamel as well. And then of course, because you've added that embossing powder and you've sealed it like an enamel, you can colour as much as you like. I think my orange needs some new ink adding in. That's not going to run anywhere. So again, that's a nice option to use, and you can heat emboss it. I know lots of you enjoy using that. The same applies when you use the Adirondack pigment. So again, it's a pigment ink like the VersaFine, and you can add the clear embossing powder to it. It does help if you remove the little plastic piece there, so I'm going to remove that off of there. And I'm going to press that down onto there. And I'm going to add the clear embossing powder to it. So again, you could just heat set it rather. You don't have to add the embossing powder. I just like the extra touch that adds, and it adds a little bit of extra security as well. Now the great thing is if you add the embossing powder, again, you could also work with water-based items. If you don't add the embossing powder and you just heat set it, I probably wouldn't recommend using water-based items on it. But if you really dry it quite thoroughly and set it, you could definitely give it a go. So again, I'm going to put that over the top. I'm going to go backwards and forwards, really load up that ink, and you're going to see that nothing's going to happen to it. So again, that works really well. As I say, I will do lots of photos and things and annotate them for you, so you can see how that works. Now, exactly the same way we stamped there with black and then just added clear on top, you can use VersaMark ink to stamp out in any colour, or add embossing powder in any colour that you can then use your Copics on as well. So I thought I'd just add that into the mix. So I'm going to use my VersaMark, which is my favourite glue pad. I'm going to stamp that out. It's picked up a little bit of the black, but that's okay. Got my nice little tray. I'll link these little trays up. I mean, if you watch my channel regularly, you'll see I use them all the time. This is the new Lawn Fawn Gold embossing powder, and as I'm using a Lawn Fawn stamp, I thought I would give it a go. Had a little spillage there, but that's okay. We'll clear that one up afterwards. Again, let me just heat set that with the Wagner tool. I think these Lawn Fawn powders are really nice. I haven't found that some powders, when you use them, I find you get a blotchy effect with them. With the Lawn Fawn, I'm going to lift this up. You can see my octopus is nice and solid. I think he comes out really well. It's a really nice embossing powder. They only have 4 colours so far, but all of them that I've tried I have really loved. And again, you can go over the top of that. Now, the one thing I'm going to caution you is because these are alcohol-based markers, whether you use these, Prisma ones, Spectrum Noirs, anything like that, which we'll look at next time, you are going to colour that embossing enamel. So if you use, for instance, white embossing powder, you then go in and you're colouring in a beautiful blue flower, that colour is going to stick onto your embossing enamel. Now, I will do a whole video on working with embossed pieces and how you can remove this and get some better effects, but I will just caution you of that. So again, that works really well, nothing is budging. So on your screen right now, you can see those pictures we took of some different comparisons. All of these pictures will be on the blog as well, that's linked below the video. If you're on a mobile device, click the arrow in the bottom right hand corner. If you are on a desktop or laptop, then click the Show Me More button under the video title, and you'll be able to see all the links to all of the different inks that we've used here. I'll link up this pen, the embossing powders, the mini MISTI, the stamps, everything will be there. If there's something you've seen that you love, you can click the links below to shop. And also, of course, there'll be a link to the blog post so that you can also pin these photos and things, and please do share them if you're in any colouring groups. We'd love to see them here at the Hollow as well, and hopefully they find the video useful too. If you enjoyed this video, do give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you don't subscribe to us already, and I will see you again very soon. Happy stamping! Bye!